July. Welcome to Stitch and Crime. This is Stasha. And it's summertime, so we are back to purple. Well, it's a little more lavender right now, but it's violet when it's first done. And then it fades to pink. And we'll do that during the summer, because anybody who does party colors knows that party colors fade with warm water, so you can't do them during winter in Utah. So, welcome to Stitch and Crime. We're going to do the stitch part first, and then we'll do the crime part at the end. June was a pretty boring month for my stitching. I only worked pretty much on 4 or 5 pieces. But we got verdicts on a lot of the big trials. So we'll save that for the crime part. We'll start with FFO items. So I went up to Jill Rensel with my friend Sarah from Redneck Bifocal Stitcher, and I picked up this. I believe this is yes, I should have looked this up before I did. This was a Halloween stitch along a couple of years ago. And it's the lady who does the plant stitch alongs. Anyway, this was a Halloween stitch along, and I will put the designer in the comments because I don't remember right now off the top of my head. And then I also finished a thing, and this is why I have other people finish my things for me, because I like the fabric I chose. I do not like the stitching. It came out lumpy. And I'm wondering if I really should kind of put something, should I stitch some border on it or something? Because I didn't do a border when I did it. And it just kind of looks funny. But there's Cindy Sorley from Stitchery Express is having her retreat at the end of this month, and Carolyn Manning was going to be there, so I did Carolyn Manning's Twinkle on Cindy Sorley's fabric. And now Carolyn's mother is sick, and she is not going to be coming to the retreat after all. But I'm thinking, I don't know, it looks kind of ugly. I don't know if I want to show it off. I like the stitching, I just don't like the finishing, because let's face it, I am a crap finisher, and that's why I hire people. So those are my finishes. Okay, those are my FFOs. Finishes during the month of June. Hometown Holiday. I finished the Clockmaker, or the Clock Shop. I forget what it's called. And I did the Schoolhouse, where we are having recess. And no, I haven't ironed it yet. And those will be finished in flat folds. And then, being that this is July 15th, and we're halfway through the month of July, through the end of June and the beginning of July, I finished my Storied Steeds. This was a stitch along from Ingleside Imaginarium. It's on a piece of blue fabric that I used for something else because I trimmed it off, and so it's a remaining piece after I used it for something, and I don't remember whose fabric it is. I don't know if it's a hand dye or if it's just a piece of blue fabric. But Storied Steeds is all done. 17 colors of backstitch, people. And then even with all that, I ended up swapping out the backstitch in here for 382 Anchor instead of doing it all in black, because I did the head in black, and it's like, that's going to be just a little too harsh. So I went with the dark brown of 382. And to me, it looks just a lot better. Can't see it really in the tail, but it's there. So I finished Storied Steeds. So what else did I work on in June? So in June, I had 11,967 stitches. Yes, I know, it was so close to 12,000, but June 30th, I was just so exhausted. There was just no way I was going to get any additional stitches. That did average out, though, to 399 stitches per day. And I'm very proud to say that I got 3,216 stitches in on Secret Carousel, so I beat my 100 stitches a day goal. So I'm very proud of that. I finished the 2 hometown holidays, and that was 2,846 stitches between the 2 of them. Okay, we talked about Secret Carousel. Storied Steeds, we talked about that. Storied Steeds had 597 stitches in June. And then I've done about 2,000, actually about 2,800 stitches in July just in back stitching. Normally I back stitch as I go along. I remember now why I back stitch as I go along, because this waiting till the end is crap. But one of my whip go numbers was Jack Frost Tree Farm. So we went to put 1,000 stitches on that and ended up putting 1,400. So this is from Little House Needleworks, Jack Frost Tree Farm. You'll normally see this piece up on top and then the 6 blocks down below. I decided to put it in the middle because we're surrounding the tree farm. And to me, when it sits on top, it's like, what are the people on the bottom doing? They're not anywhere near the tree farm. So we're going to surround the tree farm. We've got the cocoa house and the red truck that are going to parallel here. And then we'll put the people with the pine tree down here, and then the 2 corners here kind of have a parallel, but this way it draws your eye this way. And I was originally going to make that into a pillow, and I was originally going to do it over 2, and then I started doing it over 1. And this is the fabric I got to make the pillow out of. And I will probably have somebody else make the pillow, because let's face it, my pillows look like crap. But that's 1,400 stitches on Jack Frost Tree Farm. Got to do some rearranging. And then I put 1,600 stitches into Kingdom of Books. And I normally would not have put that many stitches into it, but it's like this one kept getting called for Uno. I was playing Uno with semi-sane stitchers, and this one kept getting called for Uno. Like every time I turned around, oh, work on this, work on this whip. So this was my whip that got the most Uno points. So I got 1,654 got put in on this. And then my other whip go for June was Lilac from Nora Corbett. And this is on Stitchery Express's Monet Meadow. And I got 1,767 stitches on her. She was also one of my Uno picks. So a lot of the background got done on, a lot of the stitching got done on her in the Uno game. So, that's all the pieces I worked on. I'll put a picture of Secret Carousel at the end so you can see where I'm at. I've gotten 1 full row all the way across. So the first row of blocks across the top of Secret Carousel are done. Just a sec. Coke Zero with cinnamon. For those that are keeping track of what I'm drinking. Okay, so July plans. The 2 squares that were pulled for Whip Go were a Teresa Wentzler piece in the front room. So that's either Fortunate Traveler or Summer Carousel Horse. Those are the two Teresa Wentzlers in the front room. And then Whip Warriors had a challenge early in July to put 400 stitches. No, they didn't have, it wasn't 400. It was work on your oldest whip. It was work on your oldest whip, and I put 420 stitches in to my oldest whip the first weekend of July. So Fortunate Traveler is my oldest whip, and I got 420 stitches of over 1 put in on it. I did the over 1 part of the verse. So I'll put a picture of that at the end too. And then the other piece that was drawn on Whip Go is my Just Nan summer needle roll, and the mouse that goes with it. Just a sec, I'll get you a picture. I didn't think he'd want to see a picture, but now that I'm thinking about it, I bet there are some people who do not know this piece. So this is the Summer Mouse needle roll. Oh, scissor roll. The Summer Mouse scissor roll. So you can see there. And you can see where I am here. So I need to put in 1,000 stitches on this to complete my Whip Go square on it. And here we are, the 15th of the month, and I have not even touched it yet. And part of the reason I haven't touched it is because, and you guys are going to get a kick out of this, I went up to Sarah Dockstetter's because the first week of July I had off work for vacation, and we were going to go out shooting pictures and go visit Lava Hot Springs and go do a bunch of stuff, and then the air conditioner died. Air conditioner totally died on our house as we were loading the truck. And my husband was like, okay guys, we can't leave the dogs and the house sitter in this heat. Just not going to happen. So we called the house sitter, told him, hey, air conditioner went out, we'll let you know when it's all fixed. And then thank goodness that I married a man who knows how to take care of these things, because I had to empty my deep craft storage, which is in the closet that leads into the attic. So I had to empty that closet, and he got up in the attic. He realized that one of the ducts was not correctly attached. I had to run around and find somebody who sold the correct size ducting, and for $98 I got $98 plus the gas to run around to find it. We got the ducting and the clamps, and he put it all in. So what 4th of July weekend could have been a really expensive call to an HVAC people ended up costing us $100. And then we left on vacation on Monday, which is another reason why I just was not going to get that last 33 stitches to push myself over 12,000 at the end of the month, because there was just too much going on, just way too much going on. But so that delayed us going on vacation, and then I ended up with an extra day, and it ended up being the day that Kohberger, the day that I didn't plan to be home but ended up being home, was the day that Brian Kohberger took his plea deal. And we'll talk about that in the crime part. So anyway, in July we're going to work on this. Excuse me. And I'm going to work on one or both of the Tracey Winsors, as long as I get 1,000 stitches between the two of them. I may actually be a little bold and try and go for 1,000 stitches in each of them. So, or if I split it 500, 500, then that'll be fine too. Well, anyway, while I was up at Sarah's house watching the trial with her, she gave me a couple pieces. This is the project bag that came in. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents. And inside that is Shepherd's Bush Christmas. She has decided she is done with this whip. She doesn't want it anymore, so I adopted it. So there's what it'll look like. And then she gave me this other piece, which I will admit I have not opened and looked at, but I know what it is. Check this out. This is Mirabilia's Royal Holiday. And no, that's not hair, that's a shadow. So, she has done all of the stitching. What is left is the whisper in her cloak, and beading. So when I get a spot freed up in my 25 and 25, because right now I am down to 25 whips. When I get a spot freed up in my 25 and 25, I will be starting her. There's what she looks like. I will be starting her. And you're like, Stash, wait, you just finished Storied Steeds. Why do you not have a 25 and 20 slot in your 25 and 25? Because I started Room at the Table. No, it goes this way. So this is Proper Stitcher's Room at the Table. And I can't show you what it looks like because it is downstairs. But this is Under the Sea fabric. And the thread is from Live and Die LA. And I just thought that was the perfect thread for Everyone Deserves a Seat at the Table. Oh, no, there's room at the table. There's room at the table for everyone. So that is my room at the table. And that is now my 25th whip. EGA. Storied Steeds was my EGA, I forget what they used to call them UFO busters, but my EGA chapter, you declare a piece, you pay $5, and then as long as you work on the piece each month, you're good. If you don't work on the piece, you have to put in a quarter. And then at the end of the year, there is a drawing, and okay, whenever you work on your whip in the month, you get to put your name in for the drawing. If you don't work on it, you put in a quarter. Well, I finished 2 whips, and so I had contributed $10 to the kitty. No, I guess I'd put in 15 because I did 3 different whips. And I worked on them all, and I'll be taking Story Steeds in to show it, but I got thinking, okay, you know what? All my cross-stitch whips get worked on. This is EGA, the Embroidery Guild. What do I have that's embroidery that I have not worked on? that doesn't get worked on really because it's not cross stitch, and so I don't get challenges for it. And it hit me that the Doctor Who quilt, we still need to do number 9. There's his autograph. We still need to do Jenna Coleman, our impossible girl who signed number 1. And I've got 4 or 5 other autographs on here. Sylvester McCoy is stitched already. And the last time I worked on it, I was working on Matt Smith. So, and so this is my EGA whip. So my goal is to do at least 1 signature between meetings. And then I'll be good there. Okay, so haul. I have been doing very good about not purchasing haul. Except when I went with Sarah to pick up my piece from Jill Rensel, the Halloween piece that I showed you earlier. The Just Cross Stitch Halloween book was in. So I grabbed that from Shepherd's Bush. Now here's the fun thing. At our EGA annual party, I won a gift certificate to Shepherd's Bush. I took my gift certificate to Shepherd's Bush. Do you think I used my gift certificate at Shepherd's Bush? I got to the desk and could not for the life of me remember that I had a gift certificate. The other thing I purchased was the Wibbly Wobbly Timey-Wimey sampler from the Black Needle Society. That's the back. Here's the front. So, and the fun thing is that Sarah, who was with me, was the model stitcher for this pattern. I also bought Karen Hallion's Speak Doctor and Enter, which is the TARDIS combined with the door from Lord of the Rings. And so I've got 2 Doctor Who pieces to start. And I'm excited to start them. It's just that I don't have any slots right now. So, does anybody want to look through the Just Cross Stitch magazine with me? I saved it to look through with you guys. So, do this without showing any patterns. Here is the first one. Spirited Stitches. These have ghosts. The Boo Crew. We'll flip through this so you can decide if you want to get it for yourself. The Cemetery Row Sampler. Ghostly Heights. Spooky Fun. I like that little that little haunted house is kind of cool. Not the purple one, not the birdhouse, the one with the red and blue windows. The one with the red and blue windows kind of reminds me of Autumn Lane Stitchery's Tonight We Ride. Who was the designer for that? Use up random threads to paint the windows of this spooky house. And it's by Chantal Dupuis of Paint with Stitches. Chantal, I hope I said your name right. Let the Ghosts Out. Spooky Moth Shadow Box. The Morgue, the Merrier. The Dark Side. I like that crow. That crow's kind of cool. This is the vampire up in the corner. Recording skeletons is kind of nice. But that crow just really grabbed me. Jesse Schofield of I Will Be Crafting did the Raven Rose. Graveyard Biscornu. Hope I'm saying that right. Only ever seen it in writing. Have no idea how you pronounce it. Endless Love. The Watchers. Kind of reminds me of The Birds by Hitchcock. Halloween's a great time to watch Hitchcock movies. The Light Side. And no, I don't condone how Hitchcock treated his actresses. But he did do some good movies. Little Frankie. Put it down where you can't see the... And that is a cube. And the pattern is actually done as a cube. You do it as a cross and then it folds into a cube. Halloween is my favorite. It's by Sarah Gilbert of Mod Cross Patterns. And you know what? I really hope the designers got paid for this. That it wasn't just, oh, we'll give you publicity. No, I hope they got paid for these. Halloween Stitching Sampler. I just know that I know a designer who had their ornament in the Christmas ornament issue. She never got paid. She never got her ornament back either. Witchy Brew. I like that silhouette witch. That one's cool. That is The Messenger by Barbie Lau of Twisted Willow. That's cool. Okay, maybe publicity does work because I'm going to go check out Twisted Willow. Dreamweaver Witch by Raven Stitchcraft. That one's cool. If I have any thread left after finishing Alice, that would be a good one. She did it on Legacy Cashel linen from Picture This Plus, but I think I've got something from Live and Die LA or from Under the Sea Fabrics that would work for that. Casting Spells. Little Lion Stitchery did that. Tonight I Fly. That's a neat bookmark. I think that's it. Yep, we're to the ads at the back. Oh, they now do a gallery at the end. So that's everybody. And instructions. Okay. That, and I got, this is Karen Hallion's Chew Toy pin. I'm going to take the pins off and make it a needle minder. So I thought that would be kind of fun. Okay. One more thing about Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey sampler and the Karen Hallion piece. Both of these are on dark blue fabric. So if you know anybody, I'm not centered. I'm sorry I haven't been centered this whole time. I hope that didn't drive anybody nuts. But if you know anybody who's got a good dark blue fabric, I would love recommendations, especially if it's a dyer I don't know of. My usual dyers are Under the Sea Fabrics and Live and Dye LA. I also sometimes do Bestitched Me fabrics. So if you've got somebody who has a really good dark blue for the TARDIS pieces I've got, let me know. Okay, it is very hot in here, and my hair is finally long enough that I can do things like pull it up. So we're going to pull it up, get it out of the way, and let's talk what happened in true crime. That's the wrong direction. What happened in true crime during June? So the first thing that happened was at the end of May, Lori Daybell had her final trial for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. And I know I'm not supposed to say the N word, so the attempted unaliving of Brandon Boudreaux. Lori was found guilty, and the jurors said that the main evidence that worked was her text messages, the tire video, and having a phone call with her brother's phone when he was clearly in Arizona and the phone was in Idaho. So obviously there was some planning there to make it look like her brother, Alex Cox, was not where he was when he fired at Brandon. Her sentencing is scheduled for July 25th. Now, the thing that was interesting was before the trial started and before the jury was seated, Lori filed multiple appeals multiple motions asking for the judge to be removed. She felt the judge was biased against her because she had already been found guilty in one trial in his courtroom. And that was for the unaliving of her fourth husband. Her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. And she just didn't feel that the judge could be fair and impartial where she'd already been convicted in front of him before. She lost multiple motions. Then she claimed the appeals court was biased against her and wanted it seen by the Arizona Supreme Court, and they turned it down. So she ended up going forward with the trial. So on the first day of jury selection, all of a sudden, she's sick. Now remember, Lori Vallow Daybell is the woman who claimed she was a translated being. And in the video that we saw, where her then husband Charles was saying, she's had a mental break. She keeps telling me she's a translated being, that she doesn't need to eat. She doesn't need to sleep. And that she could unalive me with no consequences. So apparently Lori was claiming to be a translated being. Translated beings don't get sick. So either she's not a translated being, or this was just posing and she never really was sick. She was just trying to get out of this trial. However, the judge ordered a medical evaluation. We don't know what was in the medical evaluation other than they found her capable and competent to continue with the trial. So the judge ordered her to be in court because she was being her own attorney. Shades of Sarah Boone there. But Lori was being her own attorney and was upset because there were several people on her witness list that the judge is like, so what relevant information do they have? And she's like, well, if I tell you what the relevant information is, then the prosecution will know my defense. And he's like, the judge is all, Lori, the law is you have to tell what relevant information these people have. That's the law. And she got all huffy and she says, well, fine, then I won't have them testify. And now in her appeal, she is claiming that she was not allowed to present witnesses, therefore she wasn't allowed to put on a proper defense, therefore she should get a new trial. And so far, she's been denied. Although, yesterday, it was either yesterday or the day before yesterday, the court released a new motion for appeal that she posted. She had filed her motion for a new trial saying that she was too sick to participate in her trial and too sick to participate clearly in her defense. And the prosecution used her reason to subpoena her medical records from the jail. And they made the request under seal so that none of the information would be public. So comes Lori, and in her handwritten her handwritten objection to the prosecution getting her medical records, announces to everybody that she had a UTI. And the judge in his minutes said, it's nice that you announced that, however the medical records don't show that. And you've opened the door again. How many times throughout the trial did we warn you? You can't say things or else you will open the door to allow in information about your previous convictions. And she just didn't understand it, and kept saying, they wouldn't let me say what I needed to say. And they're like, Lori, that's because you were going to taint the jury against you. And she did anyway, because she was convicted. So anyway, she is using that as a reason for why she should get a new trial. Her sentencing on both the Brandon Boudreaux conviction and the Charles Vallow conviction will be July 25th. So June was our month for trials. July is our month for sentencing. Corey Richins. Last time I talked to you about Corey Richins, I said we're not going to see her for a long time, because she wanted to put a stay on any processing and procedures for her trial until after she had appealed to either the Utah Supreme Court or the Supreme Court to get a new jurisdiction. And the reason she wanted a new jurisdiction was she felt that the Richins name was so well known in the Summit County area that she couldn't get a fair jury. And remember, this is the one where Judge Mazrak turned to her lawyer and said, we seated a jury for Gwyneth Paltrow. Are you claiming that your client is better known than Gwyneth Paltrow. Skye, who was her former attorney, she's since fired Skye. Actually, Skye withdrew and fired her. Actually, they said it was mutual, but I get the feeling that once Skye realized the money wasn't real, she didn't really want a thing to do with her. That, and in the Walk the Dog letter, Corey calls Skye a bunch of names, which would kind of lead me to believe that maybe you can't get along with your client. Or at least they don't think they can get along with you if they're calling you names. So Corey has new attorneys now. But the Utah Supreme Court ruled that Summit County can seat a jury. So Corey is now scheduled for February 23rd, 2026. They will start jury selection a little bit earlier. They expect the trial, opening statements on the trial, to start on February 23rd, which is going to be really interesting because that weekend is my birthday, and it's a decade birthday, so it's a big one. And it's also the Pacific Spring Stitching in Anaheim with Live and Die LA. So I plan to be going down to the Live and Die LA February get-together. My friend Sarah, Redneck Bifocal Stitcher, is coming with me. I was hoping to have some other friends come with me, but things are tough right now. Things are tough economically, so some people that I was hoping would be there will not be there. But there are others that are like, Anaheim, in view of Disneyland, I'll be there. So Sarah and I are planning on getting there at least a day early and spending a day in the park, and then we'll start the stitching. Okay. Next thing, Brian Kohberger. Right now there is a documentary on Prime called, I believe it's called One Night in Idaho. That is about the night that four college students at the University of Idaho lost their lives. And Brian Kohberger was arrested about 6 to 8 months after the incident at the college house on King Road, and he's been fighting really hard to get certain things excluded from evidence, and hasn't been working. Has not been working. And on July 2nd, he changed his plea from standing silent, because he did not plead not guilty. He stood silent. He changed his plea from standing silent to guilty. And he said that he was very happy with his defense counsel. So there goes any chance of appealing on ineffective counsel. He said that he was pleading guilty because he did these incidents, that he unalived the 4 students. And as part of his plea agreement, he gives up his right to appeal. And there are families of the victims that are furious. They wanted him to get the death penalty. And you have to remember, Brian Kohberger is a criminology student. And he's not dumb. He may be autistic. That's one of the things they were using to try and mitigate getting the death penalty off the table. But and we'll call it DP from here on out, because I don't know what YouTube. A lot of people can't find my channel because YouTube, because of what we talk about, YouTube thinks that this is scary and shouldn't be found. So, anyway, Brian changed his plea, claimed he did it. And I think had he not done this, and had he not waived his right to appeal, I think this would have gone on for 40, 50 years. And I would absolutely, I mean, the parents are furious now because he's going to spend life in prison with no possibility of parole. But how would they have felt if he found a technicality? Because podunk officer so-and-so in Moscow, Idaho, hasn't dealt with a homicide like this and failed to do something correctly on a form. I could see this one getting off on an appeals technicality. I would hope that the court would say, no, sorry. But I think if this one had gone to trial and had spent all those years in appeals, I think that there's just too much chance. There's too much risk. And not to mention, there's still a whole bunch of people that are saying, oh no, he couldn't have done it. A single person could not have done everything that claims that people said happened in that room. The roommates did it. Their TikTok psychic is saying one of the professors at University of Washington did it. Everybody else has been ruled out, but there's still enough people that believe in conspiracy theories that there are people that would have funded appeals for him for years. A lot of, people say, well, we're not going to get the reason. Honey, you weren't going to get the reason in trial either. They never, ever give a reason. There's no reason, and motive's not part of the criminal justice system. It's not there. The prosecution can think they know what the motive is, but unless it comes out of the defendant's mouth, you don't know if it's true or not. And there's a lot of speculation that Brian was a big fan of Elliot Rogers, who is the incel unaliver, who unalived himself as his final victim. There's a big deal being made about he was looking up Ted Bundy. He was a criminology student, people. It was probably for a school assignment. So I'm not putting anything into anybody he looked up. Anyway, sentencing for Brian and victim impact statements they are planning on those starting on July 22nd and may go into the 23rd. So he gets to sit there and listen to impact statements from the victims. There are some of the victims' parents who have said they're not going to give impact statements. They're furious with the prosecution. They're furious with the courts. They don't think this is fair. You know what, guys? I'm sorry. I feel for you. This has been horrible for you. But getting rid of him is not going to bring them back. Closure is a myth. And I'm sorry. But this way, as one of the parents said, we're not going to have to suffer through appeals. We can move on with our lives. Also sentencing on that same week in July, because 22nd, 23rd is Kohberger, 25th is Lori. Jeremy Best is July 23rd. He's in Ada County, Idaho. No, he's not. He's in he's in Rexburg, whatever county Rexburg is. Ada County is where Kohberger was moved to, but Jeremy Best actually is going to stay up near Rexburg. Jeremy Best has pled guilty to the unaliving of his wife, his pregnant wife, and his son. He was obviously not in his right mind, because this whole incident, if you go back and when we talk about Jeremy Best, his whole incident started when he walked in naked to a convenience store in his town in Idaho and was taken to ERMAC, which is East Idaho Regional Medical Center, and was supposed to be on a 72-hour hold, but was released the same day. And somehow in his mind, this was his wife's fault. So there is some discussion as to whether he unalived his wife before or after he went to the convenience store. But after he got out of ERMAC, he took his son and went on a drive. And police later found his son's body, and then later found Jeremy naked as a jaybird still. They always emphasize that he was still naked, that he had no clothes on, in a sleeping bag. Hopefully he is getting the mental health care that he needs, because I don't think he would, who knows, I don't know the man. Maybe he would have done this if he were in his right mind. Maybe he wasn't in his right mind and just trying for Idaho doesn't have an insanity defense. So, wrong state to do that in if you're trying for an insanity defense. But Jeremy Best's sentencing is on July 23rd. So, we were going to watch the Kohberger trial through July, September, and October. So what are we going to do now? Well, the Restellis don't go on trial for a while. They had their bond hearing at the end of May. Jennifer, why am I losing her name? Anyway, Jennifer, whose parents were helping clean the crime scene, while she was out driving around with the body in a storage container, a roof rack storage container. Her trial is in December. But remember Nicholas Rossi, who's now going by Nicholas Aliverdian, who, when he was found, was going by Arthur Knight and was found in Scotland. His trial is in August. And his other trial is in September. So he is on rape charges for two different counties here in Utah. One in Utah County, one in Salt Lake County, for basically essaying different women. And after Utah's done with him, I believe there are other states that are lining up for him. And he faked his death when he went to Europe because the feds were after him for credit card fraud. So there are people in line for him. So we'll see what happens to Nicholas Rossi next month. The other one that just broke over the weekend is we have a gentleman in Idaho. I shouldn't say gentleman. We have a man in Idaho with a mental health condition who acted on the voices in his head, and there are four less people in his town. His family has issued an apology saying, "I'm sorry, our father was not mentally ill. Our father was mentally ill. We know what his diagnosis is. We're happy to tell you what his diagnosis is. I don't know if I want to share his diagnosis. But they issued apologies to all the families who are missing family members due to their father's mental health. But I'll be following that one as well. And on Doi Pham, who likes to hit women with his car, had some more charges added in June. But I don't have a trial date for him yet. And that is the extent of my crime. So if there are any other cases in the Intermountain West, Utah, Arizona, Idaho, Colorado, no, I'm not doing the dentist whose lawyer tried to unalive his wife and set the house on fire. Dr. Craig was the dentist. The dentist is on trial for poisoning his wife, and his lawyer is in jail for setting the house on fire with his wife still in it. Not the dentist's wife. The dentist's wife was already deceased. The lawyer's wife, who is his co-defense. So the dentist's trial will continue, even though half of the defense team is now in jail. And the other half survived the house fire. But, yeah, we're not going to talk about the Craig case. That one's just a little too creepy to me. So, have a wonderful summer. For those of you that are going to be at the Stitchery Express retreat in the end of July, beginning of August, I will see you there. Pickle Barrel is the designer that's still coming, and Carolyn Manning is not, but she is sending her exclusive design. So we'll see that then. By the way, now that we're done with everything, that pillow, the lumpy pillow I made, what do you think? Should I add a border? Should I not add a border? Let me know your opinion. Leave me a comment on what you think I should do with the pillow. And then I am going to go ahead and leave you with some pictures of the baby quilts that I finished today that I talked about earlier. A picture of Secret Carousel, because that it's a Hade. It is too honkin' big to haul up here. My husband has very generously given me a spot in the middle of between our kitchen and the family room. He's set up a drafting table that I have my Hade on, and it's been wonderful because that way I can watch TV with him and still work on it. And then I'll include some pictures of where I am on my Teresa Wentzlers. And then next time I film, you can see where they're at. And that's where I'm at. Remember, everybody, this is Stasha, and a pattern is just a place to start. We all personalize the pieces. At least I hope we do. It'd be boring to stitch it exactly as it is. Anyway, some people like that though. It's your hobby. You do you. See you later.